Miami Gardens. In this groundbreaking podcast dissertation, we examine the profound impact of leadership on government with a specific focus on how it shapes the city of Miami Gardens. Through insightful interviews, in-depth analysis, and compelling narratives, we uncover the intricate dynamics between leadership and governance, highlighting the transformative power of effective leadership in shaping the trajectory of a city. Join us on this enlightening journey as we explore the role of leadership in driving positive change and development in the now vibrant community of Miami Gardens.
Welcome to Reimagining Miami Gardens. This is a podcast where we explore the rich history and leadership that shaped my hometown, Miami Gardens. I'm your host, Oliver Gilbert, the chairman of the Board of County Commissioners and the County Commissioner for District 1. I was the mayor of Miami Gardens for 8 years. Look, from parking cars, to taking the bus to law school, I've stayed the course in Miami Gardens because I realized exactly who we are and what we can become. And so when they talked about doing a podcast, this seemed natural because what started off as all of these disparate areas, these Carroll City and Parkview and Crestview and Rolling Oaks and Bunch Park and the Norwood area. What started off was all these in the Bajas. What started off all these little neighborhoods, we actually shaped into a city, the largest predominantly African-American city in the state of Florida. What started off as a city that people said couldn't be successful financially, now has a pretty high bond rating with wonderful reserves and economic development that's booming. And so when you want to talk about how something happens, I thought it would be appropriate to actually talk about how this happened and the leadership that it took to get it there. It wasn't all me. It was a lot of people who came before me and people who came afterwards. But I want to talk about that. And that's what this podcast is about, reimagining the area that's Miami Gardens, reimagining Miami Gardens. Now, today we'll take a look at all that stuff. And I have our very first guest in this podcast. And I want to have him on because just like me, he's someone who actually grew up in Miami Gardens. And so it's important that you got two kids who grew up in Miami Gardens. He was on the first council, went on to serve in the Florida House of Representatives, the Florida Senate as minority leader for Democrats. And he's been helping to shape what Miami Gardens has become since before it was incorporated. I'd like to welcome to the podcast State Senator Oscar Braynon.
Thank you very much, Chairman. It's a pleasure to be here. I can't wait to talk about this. This is something that's near and dear to my heart. It was the beginning of my political career and such a large part of my life.
Yeah. So from the early days of Miami Gardens, you played a crucial role in shaping the city's identity and setting the stage for future growth. Now, leaders like you were driven and shared a vision for creating a safe and prosperous, inclusive community for all residents. One that, actually allowed for businesses to develop and allowed for people to actually move here. Now, the first mayor was Shirley Gibson. You knew Shirley. Talk to me about her some.
Yes, I did. And, I knew Shirley from before the city. Shirley was an activist in the community. We call it the City of Miami Gardens, but what many people don't know is that we had a movement to try to create a city before that called Destiny, because we felt it was we needed to control our own destiny. And Mayor Gibson was a leader in that creation, in that campaign, and she learned from that. And we worked together on that as I worked in Commissioner Betty Ferguson's office right out of college.
Talk to me about that. That's right. You were an aide for Betty Ferguson.
Yes.
And so you actually got a chance to work on the city when it was really just, you got the chance to provide municipal services for the city when it was unincorporated. But then you got an opportunity to actually work on the incorporation with then Commissioner Ferguson.
Yes, and Commissioner Ferguson and Mayor Gibson collectively, with a few other advocates, had a vision. They had a vision, and their vision came about because of many of the complaints we had. You talk about us providing municipal services, but it was a fight. As you know, as a county commissioner, sometimes you have to fight with 12 other members to give resources to your district. And Commissioner Ferguson had gotten a little fed up with fighting with people not from our community to get resources into our community, especially when they're by herself. And I think that Shirley Gibson, Barbara Watson, Melvin Bratton, everyone that was on the city council before, I knew as community activists in their neighborhood. And all of these community activists came together and said, we want to help you get resources, get safety in our community, help us bring about a sense of community. We want to help you do that, Commissioner Ferguson. How can we do that? And the best way to do that is to incorporate. And that was how we came up with Destiny, which eventually became Miami Gardens.
So I remember the Destiny movement, and that initially, the Destiny movement. You're laughing, me too. It was funny because it was much smaller.
It was,
and ultimately,
it was the east side of Miami Gardens.
It was the east side of Miami Gardens,
yes.
And so ultimately, the Destiny movement it fails as an incorporation movement, and so. Talk to me about that. Why do you think it failed? You were there, I was there. Let's talk about that some, because it's very interesting that Destiny small fails, Miami Gardens big succeeds, and then Miami Garden grows.
I think what happened in Destiny, we didn't think large enough. I don't think we thought enough of ourselves and thought we could hold a city that would be, when it was created, the third largest city in Miami-Dade County. So as soon as it's created, you become the third largest city in Miami-Dade County. That's ambitious. That is ambitious. And so I think that we, and that happens a lot in our community. We don't know how great we are. We don't know how great we are. And we didn't know that we could do it until being small, we were like, wait a minute, that many different factors from outside played a role in it. But the main reason was everybody wasn't part of it. Everybody wasn't a part of it. But when we all got together and we brought in everybody from the West, because I don't know if the Bajas was in it. The Bajas wasn't in the initial. I don't think the Bajas was in it. The Bajas, Carroll City, bringing in all, and again, those communities have always been a part of this community.
Yes.
Once we realized that we could do it, we did it.
Yeah, so that's what strikes me. The difference between Destiny and Miami Gardens is Destiny's small and it's very secluded. But when you and they couldn't do it by themselves. But when they reimagined the vision, they imagined themselves bigger. Because and I sympathize with Commissioner Ferguson being a county commissioner now.
Right.
Because back then people were telling you, no, your community's poor. And she'd be like, well, hold on. I live with these people. We're not poor. We work. We go to work just like everybody else. And so she had to fight that argument all the time. But that's all they heard about their area, that they couldn't support it. They couldn't afford to be their own city. But when you were able to have a conversation, not with just the smaller area that comprised Destiny, but the larger area that comprised Destiny and now what is Miami Gardens, people was like, well, hold on. If they can do it in other places, why can't we do it here?
Why can't we?
Why can't we? Because this is a part of a larger incorporation movement. Other cities incorporated around the same time. Miami Lakes, Doral, Pinecrest. They all started incorporating around the same time. So if they can all do it, then why can't we do it? And that question began to actually permeate through the electorate. Like, why can't we do it? And so because ultimately, if they can do it together, then we can do it together. It became a very, very, very interesting time. So we move on. Miami Gardens is created. There's an election, and Miami Gardens is created, and it becomes the largest black city in the state of Florida instantly.
Correct. Largest black city, third largest city in Miami-Dade County. I think that it was, when we first started, I think we were in the top 10 of cities in Florida in size. So it was an undertaking.
And you start from absolutely nothing, and you become one of the first council members. And I'll add this caveat: to become one of the first council members, he beat me to run for the seat. So we ran against each other, and he wins the race. I stay active in the city. We were already friends. We continue, our friendship continues to grow. And so Miami Gardens becomes a city. Now, let's put this in context. So when you are becoming a city, like if you start a company, you ain't got you got a name, but you ain't no bank accounts. You ain't really have no employees. Well, how difficult is that?
One of the things about starting a city is I don't think we knew what we didn't know. Right? We walked in and you just think, all right, well, we've got a city. Something as simple as we actually didn't have any employees. You had to hire somebody. You had to hire a person. And it's interesting. The first person we hired was Lily Odom, who ends up becoming a city councilman in the second city council. And you just start from the base. So it's interesting because, you have this grand vision of, do I need to start over? Did something, what was that? I heard something ring.
That was outside the door.
Oh, okay. All right. My bad. You have this grand vision and you think about, well, I would like to do this. But you have something as simple as, well, we need to get a bank account.
Yes.
We need to get an office.
You need to have office space.
We don't have a city hall.
Yeah, you
right?
all were having your meetings at New Orleans Senior High at first.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you can have a grand vision of a community and a city on a shining hill, but you got to start somewhere. And some of the logistics of it, minutia, took a long time, and it took us staying focused on the vision. And I'll say that Mayor Gibson, through all the minutia, kept us focused on the vision. And so by staying focused on the vision, you could get through the monotony of, we need to buy paper. We need to get computers. We need to get chairs. We need to get a building. We need to get all these things.
You need to set up payroll. You need to get insurance.
Correct.
You need to find out how you actually get money from the county tax collector.
Right, exactly.
All of these things, because
do we have parks?
Do you have a park? Yeah, how do you run your parks?
Do we hire somebody for parks? And all of those things had to happen within the first, 4 to 5 years. And you add on to that, we had some challenges because, you say that we didn't believe we could do it. It wasn't just us.
No.
There were other people that didn't believe we could do it and put a lot of hurdles in our way. I look at some of the struggles that have gone on with Haiti, right? Yeah. Haiti started off in the black because France was telling them, you owe us money. Mm-hmm. We almost had to do the same thing.
Yes.
The county we started off in the black. The county said, for leaving us, you owe us money. So we had that battle that we were fighting along with trying to start it. So it was not easy. It was not easy.
Listen, when you say it like that, when they wanted us to pay for our freedom, that's real funny. They wanted us to pay for our freedom. Yeah. That's a word right there. They want us to pay for our freedom. What's funny is, and this is skipping ahead in the other podcast, but years later, what we'll find out is that we really didn't owe you money. You actually did owe us money. You said we were a recipient area. We were actually a donor area, and that we would be just fine. That we would be just fine. That those hurdles that you're talking about were actually artificial. They weren't even real. They made it up, and almost like they didn't want the area to succeed. But I wouldn't, attribute those nefarious type motives to anyone. I would never do that. I'm a God-fearing man.
Yes.
Jesus. So when you think about the leadership skills that it took, because, it's not just organizational skills, it's leadership skills. What it took, you was one of the initial council members, and you ended up being the second vice mayor of Miami Gardens. What type of leadership did it take? Because a lot of times when I would sit in the audience and I would hang out and I would talk to you all, what I saw, it was really incredible because you didn't just have to tell people what you were doing sometimes. You had to explain to them why you were doing it and why it needed to be done. They didn't understand what an interlocal was at the time. They didn't understand why you needed to have, this greater insurance. It's not health insurance, but municipal insurance, because people do things. Why you needed to, bond your manager and how you select. What type of leadership did it take to actually not just organize the city, but bring the people along with it?
Well, I think it's twofold. I think there's the leadership amongst our council, right? What does it take to lead the council or to lead them on ideas that you have? And so that's one thing. I was 26 years old, and the rest of the council, the youngest person on there was the same age as my grandfather, right?
Yes.
So for me, I had to, my leadership style was to understand my role, lean into that role, and make everyone feel comfortable that I'm okay with playing the role and that I can help you through the role that I play. Once you do that and people feel comfortable, they respect you because you have respected what they thought of you. Yeah. Right? I gave you the deference that you saw me as your grandchild. I understand that. I even understand why you see that. And you know what? I'll be the best grandchild you ever had. And so when I come to you and ask you for fill in the blank thing that I need done or that we should do this, you trust me. We have a trust because just like you trust your grandchild, right? Because you raised them. So I felt that it was understanding my role and understanding how to make you feel comfortable in that. And then there's a second fold of leadership, which is leadership at large for the community. And that's a leadership that I feel comes from showing people the best of themselves.
Yes.
Right? I think that I always tell people, I am you. When you look in the mirror, I'm you. When you look at your child, I'm your child. When you look at, when you think about what's going to happen for Miami Gardens going forward in the future, I want to show you that. And so if I show you that, then you want to follow and make that happen. So those are the two ways I felt like as a young man on the city of Miami Gardens that I focused on.
Well, it's interesting you say that because I know exactly what you're talking about. And your presence on the dais and in the city as an elected official at the time was very, very important because it engaged an entirely different population of people. And so the very first thing that you talked about, I remember they did kind of look at you as the young, but
Little Oscar.
But it was okay because sometimes your grandparents need help. They don't understand the remote control.
Exactly.
They don't understand the remote control. Exactly. And so sometimes I got to explain to them, hey, no, this is what you get the cable. This actually goes.
This is how you get the VHS to work.
Yes, to the VHS to work. This is how you press this button. And so allowing for that type of assistance, you could see their confidence in you growing when they became comfortable, they just want to realize, they want to know that you actually respected them and their wisdom. And their wisdom. And they were an extraordinarily wise group of people. But what you had worked in the state legislature, you had worked at the county commission, you had an extraordinary amount of information and knowledge and know-how.
I had worked in the government for over a decade.
Yeah.
At 25, I had worked in government since I was 15, 16.
Yeah.
So
it became a very interesting thing. And then something else you did was it really did engage an entirely different generation of residents of the city. It gave us an opportunity to actually take ownership in the city. So it wasn't just a city that was going to be run by a bunch of old people.
Correct.
That you could actually engage in different levels. And you see Miami Gardens now, they even have a relatively young.
Very, very different from
it's very different. And I think it starts then. But I think the most important thing is you reminded people that you were from Miami Gardens. So a lot of times we don't realize it, but we have like low communal esteem. So we don't think highly of ourselves. So when people would tell them it's a poor community or it's a high crime community and they would tell you all these negative things, you would let them say it because you didn't really identify with the fact that they were saying it about you.
Correct.
They were saying it about you as a person. Because you were this community. So when you stood and say, I graduated from Florida State and this is what I do and I've lived there all my life and I want to build someplace, you were saying, hey, listen, remember who you are. Remember who you are. Don't let nobody tell you who you are because their ability to define you actually becomes their ability to actually control the way you think about yourself. And that was very challenging. One of the leadership theories that I thought was interesting when we were talking about this portion of how we reimagined, how we changed and grew Miami Gardens was the great man theory. And it's interesting with the great man theory, it suggests that great leaders are born with inherent qualities that make them exceptional. Now, the theory developed itself in the 19th century. The theory assumes that certain specific traits are innate and they require, they're innate and they're with these leaders and they're so implicit and intrinsic to the leader that it helps them in those moments. I don't know. I mean, that's possible because I think about the first mayor, Shirley Gibson, and she's a woman, so it'll be the great woman theory. It would be the great woman theory, but there was something that was uniquely strong
100%.
And innate with, like, you just had to know Shirley. Unfortunately, she's passed away.
Right.
Recently. But Shirley was probably the strongest singular leader in the area at the time because she had to stand in the gap in front. And she wasn't a big lady. Relatively small. She might be 5'1", but she's a former police officer, business owner, and she was going to stand up to anybody. Talk to us about that, the great man theory and Shirley Gibson.
Well, I understand the great man theory as it relates to traits that people who are in leadership almost need. To be a great leader, you need these traits. You have to be able to relate to people. You have to be able to have empathy. You have to have some empathy. And these are things that I think that those that are great at it were born with. I mean, it can be built. Don't get me wrong. I don't say you can't build it, but some people are just born with it. I look at little children. Some little children see a dog and they think, "Oh my God, let me pet him. How's he doing?" And other ones want to strap a rocket to the back. Right? It's sometimes it's taught, sometimes it's not. So I understand why you.
The rocket ain't a bad thing though. If you've never, it's not like a horse. Not that I'm not advocating. I'm joking. I'm not advocating. Peter, do not. So I am not doing it.
So I can understand. Joking. I can understand that, but I do believe that. I mean, that's for great leaders, but I do believe everyone can find their way to be a leader in their own circle. Right? Mm-hmm. It may be hard for you to be the president of the United States. It may be a little harder for you to be the president of your company, but it definitely does. But you can definitely find a way to lead people to the things that you need.
Well, and I think that goes to the last general question I want to get at. It actually, you kind of spoke to it a little bit. What are the exact traits you think that, I guess, great leadership requires? Are there specific traits like are there listening?
Yes,
being a good listener. Being a good listening is that one of them. Being a good speaker or motivator.
I think listening. I think I touched on empathy.
Yes.
I think I think that one's so big, and I don't think people understand that. If you don't understand what's going on with the people that you're leading, it's going to be very hard for you to get them motivated to do anything. I was minority leader, and one of the things I always told people was, I understand I think I had 16 members. I understand all 16 members and what they want. Mm-hmm. I really do get what they want. Now, it may not be the same thing I want, but at least I understand it. And I may even tell them that, look, I know you want XYZ, but let me explain to you why ABC is similar to XYZ. But I couldn't explain it in relation to XYZ if I didn't know what XYZ was.
Yes.
So for me, I think that's possibly one of the most important things if you really want to be a leader of people. Now, if you want to be a great orator and you want to be a symbol and you want to be a queen, king, or something to that effect, you need to know how to talk. Yeah. You need to have a great presence about you, right? But I think if you want to lead people to get things done, which I think is a more important leadership skill, I think empathy goes over presence. Empathy goes over being able to be a great orator, right? And all those things I think go well, because if you look at someone like Ronald Reagan, right? They said he was the great communicator. One of the things he communicated was that he kind of felt bad about things, even if he didn't really. He made you believe it. And so.
No, I think about this, and I was thinking about another Republican president. I was thinking about George W. Bush.
Yes.
Because George W. Bush, one of the things I remember they did that poll and they said, well, what do you think about George W. Bush? And they said, well, he's the guy you want to have a beer with. The reason why is because you could see yourself just sitting down and talking with him. He seemed like he understood you.
He even coined the term compassionate conservative.
Compassionate conservative.
Compassion implies I care.
Yeah.
I care about you, right?
Yeah.
Even if I don't, I'm telling you I care about you.
Yes, I mean, when you think about it, we've had a number of presidents in our lifetime, I guess, who've been able to actually communicate that very well, and so that's interesting. I wonder, and this is probably not for this podcast, but I wonder, is politics changing in a way?
I do too.
And I hope that it's not.
Look, man, if you're gonna talk about that, I could talk about that.
Well, no, I hope
way
it's not
past your 25 minutes.
Because I hope that we aren't moving past the point where the people, man or woman who's the leader of the free country, has lost. We lost as a requirement that they be able to empathize.
Right.
With the situations of every American, because ultimately that's how you actually. Empathy is also a big part of being a utilitarian oriented leader.
Yes.
The greatest good for the greatest number requires you to actually understand what people are actually going through, what they're actually experiencing, and how you can actually develop policies that address the greatest good while they can't help everybody. it can help most people.
How
but
about
you need empathy for
just
that.
the point that you want to help people.
You want to help people.
See, because that like let's just start there.
Yeah.
Help people, right? Because, you know, a lot of times people want to be leaders so they can be famous, so that they can help themselves, so that they can be, you know, get into the clubs. They can be seated first in the restaurant, so they can be recognized, right? Or for financial gain, right?
Yeah.
None of those things help the people you're leading, right? And so for me, this is a personal thing. For me, I did this all for my neighborhood.
I think that's so important that you were walking door to door talking about the high water bills that we were getting from North Miami Beach in this area before this was actually a city.
Before I was elected.
And so, yeah.
Before I was elected.
That's why I think that it's like this first podcast, Reimagining Miami Gardens, to have two guys who actually grew up here in Miami Gardens, because we both get into public service. Ultimately, I don't know that I ever run for public office if Miami Gardens does not incorporate as a city.
Yeah.
I'd just be a lawyer somewhere practicing law. This wouldn't be an issue. So, but no, I appreciate you. I appreciate you being here, Senator. This has been a wonderful conversation. This is just the first of a series of podcasts that we're actually bringing forth to describe how Miami Gardens as an area was reimagined to Miami Gardens, which is an extraordinary city. One of the best cities in the state right now. And so thank you for being our first guest. We'll be back to talk about a number of other areas, whether it be what we did in the area of community development, business development, infrastructure, parks and rec, public safety. We're going to be doing all that. And so I look forward to having you join us again.
Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for listening to Reimagining Miami Gardens. Join us for our next episode as we dive into the leadership principles that guided the transformation of Miami Gardens into the vibrant city it is today. Until then,